red lipstick makes you a hoe. I've heard this real life incarnation. People say that if you wear red lipstick, you're a hoe. Let's talk about that, bro. How is the color of my lips going to determine what goes on down there? Come on, let's think a bit more deep. Don't be so simplistic in your thinking. Don't be so disingenuous, my brother. God gave you a brain to think. So think. Please, girls, don't let modern day feminism, or just feminism as a whole, don't let it bamboozle you. Don't let feminism bamboozle you. Since when did your reputation not mean anything? Since when did your reputation not matter? I'm just seeing some false equivalencies. I don't see where you're coming from, my sister. If you're truly carefree, then you have no cares. You are free of cares. People don't want to talk about why people are thots or hoes. These people, most of them, are hurt. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am the lovely London girl, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing season 2 episode 1 of Bat.Chat Houston. I used to watch Bat.Chat back in season 1, but then it just jarred me to the point where I didn't want to watch the show anymore. So I thought, you know what, I'm seeing bits and pieces of it. I saw the trailer for Bat.Chat Houston. I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this one a go because it looks interesting. So I'm just going to jump straight into it. The question was, if your friend is a thot, does it affect your reputation? Now obviously this one is a bit of a controversial one, and it's very much contemporary, very much of the times right now, especially when you have Amber Rose doing slut walks and you have people living a thot life and making it seem like, you know, that's the only life to live, and if you're not a thot then you're just boring, you're backwards, and you're not a feminist and all these other things. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting question. Now I'm going to hit you with my opinions here and there, but I'm also going to let you know what people said and what I think about what people said. Now first and foremost, although I don't watch Bkchat, I know who Lucas is, and I know that for me personally he just comes across as a little bit unwise, a little bit like a stereotypical F-boy. Like, he just comes across as someone who doesn't think deeper sometimes, and his theories sometimes are a bit mad, and he's a bit too aggressive with it as well. So like, if you're not wise, if you're not speaking wisdom, don't be so aggressive, because then you look like even more of an idiot. Anyway, so in my personal opinion, I think Tay Mitchell, Migos and Chris are the Lucas Trinity. Now, not as disrespectful and not as seemingly unwise, but they definitely have some ways, they have some ways, some nyoma, to say, I'm looking at them sideways, just a little bit. You know, Migos ain't so bad. He has said some things where I'm like, bruh, that's not correct. But you know what, I don't know, this cast seems a bit more respectful and a bit less brash. Although, yeah, there are some brash characters, don't get me wrong, and there is some rudeness, some shots thrown, there seems to be a bit more jovial, a bit more respectful as well. And maybe it's because they actually know each other behind the scenes, you know, they actually like are real life acquaintances or friends or associates behind the camera. So I think that plays off on camera pretty well. So that's what I felt about that. I personally feel like in the beginning they should have set boundaries as to what a thot was. They should have just defined what a thot was, what they thought a thot was, so that it would have given the conversation more of a context. Because obviously it's all subjective. What one man thinks is a thot, one man might think is an angel. Everyone's different. What one man might be able to accept, one man might not be able to accept. So they should have really set some parameters in the beginning to say, okay, what do you think a thot is, or what is a thot? Let's just set a medium definition if we can, so then we can go off of that. Because then it seemed like in this episode a thot was more so an image rather than what the girl did. Because at 14 minutes and around 20 seconds, Tay Mitchell said no man is going to let his girl be a thot. And I thought, of course no man is going to let his girl be a thot, because being a thot is associated with sleeping around and being about that life. No man is going to let his girl do that. I'm not saying she needs permission, but you know what I mean. Let's not get into politics right now. So clearly it's a mixture between what a girl does and what she looks like. And I feel like most of the conversation was like, okay, if I see you hanging around with thots, then you're perceived as a thot, you are a thot. And I feel like that's very simplistic thinking, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. Let's just continue. In my personal opinion, I don't think this whole topic is about whether you are a thot or not. It should be, but it's not. It's about whether you're perceived as a thot. Like, please, girls, don't let modern day feminism, or just feminism as a whole, don't let it bamboozle you. Don't let feminism bamboozle you. Since when did your reputation not mean anything? Since when did your reputation not matter? Even if we take up friendships and even the thot question from the situation, when you hang around with people of a certain caliber, of a certain background, a certain way of life, naturally you are perceived to be of that. It is a common saying, birds of a feather flock together. Bad company corrupts good character or good morals. This is something that is age old. We all know this. One rotten egg can spoil the whole batch, or whatever. One rotten apple can spoil the whole batch. These sayings are not sayings just because they sound cute. It's true, it's tried and tested, it's happened time and time again. So please let me know in the comments, do you have friends? Or were you somebody who was corrupted once by a bad friend, but you didn't know until you stepped out of that friendship, and in hindsight you saw that that person was affecting your character and your mannerisms? Like, I've been through that, and people around me tell me, oh, you're getting rude, you know, or, you know, you're acting a bit different. And I was like, I'm just normal, I'm just fine. I couldn't see that I was changing until I stepped out of that friendship, and in hindsight I could see, actually they affected me this and this and this. I can't blame them for my choices, because I still believe that everyone has the power to make their own choices, but I can definitely associate the choices that I made based on some of the influence that came from that person. And so we can't be silly to come and sit here and try and front and pretend like perception doesn't matter, because it always has mattered and it always will matter. It's just because now they've attached sexuality and a woman's sexuality to the topic, now that people want to front. And I feel like the girls were a little bit disingenuous. I feel like they were trying to put up a front just a little bit, because they didn't want to just admit that perception matters and your reputation matters. Okay, you might not care about what people think of you, but your reputation matters. Like, you might not think what any old Tom, Dick or Harry thinks of you on the street, but if that Tom, Dick and Harry becomes an interviewer and you go and sit in front of him, you will care about how he perceives you, because what you want something from them. Let's not lie to ourselves, people. Let's not lie. I feel like she's just passionate about what she says, and I don't see that as a negative thing as such. She does cut people off from time to time, but I mean, we all do when we're heated or when we're passionate about something. I'm not going to read too negatively into her character, because that's already done for dark-skinned women all the time. And so I see her as just someone who's really passionate, and you know, every girl on that kind of panel was giving it just as good as she was. Although she's a bit more eccentric, I'm not going to try and play her down like she was being extra, because we don't need to be doing that to our own kind and to our sisters. But I do feel like she wasn't being genuine. I feel like she wasn't hearing as much. I feel like she's just got this idea in her head of, I know who I am, I know me, and what you think of me doesn't matter. And that's true. What people think of you doesn't matter to an extent, because when it starts affecting your livelihood or starts affecting the way that you can move around in society because you've aligned yourself with people, then that should concern you. And she was saying how, oh, guys are gonna think I'm a hoe anyway, so why am I gonna now start to remove myself from this company because guys gonna assume I'm a hoe anyway? Since when did every guy assume that you're a hoe just based on the fact that you're a woman? But I mean, that's just a bit simplistic. It's a bit disingenuous to just say all men are gonna assume I'm a hoe anyway, so why will I watch who I hang around with? That's not necessarily true. I'm just seeing some false equivalencies. I don't see where you're coming from, my sister. It's not about what men are gonna think, it's about what you want to do with your life. You should be looking to align yourself with like-minded people. It shouldn't be based on, oh, you're gonna think I'm a hoe anyway, so let me just do this. Then you're giving them the power over your life. You align yourself with people that you feel mirror your philosophies and your standards and your preferences, where you're going in life, and stick to that. I'm sorry, if you feel like your standard in life is hoe antics and hoe perceptions and hoish behavior, thottish behavior, and if someone perceives you and treats you like that, you can't then be mad. You can't wave a piece of fresh meat, like raw meat, in front of a lion, and when it comes to bite your hand off, you're crying. Oh, you know, I was just waving it there, I didn't intend for you to eat it. You know that that lion is hungry, or that lion's best kind of favorite food is raw bloody meat, and you've dangled that in front of them. I'm sorry, it doesn't sound like what modern day feminists or women will say, but I don't care. You can't dress a certain way and then expect people not to think a certain way about you. Now, you can acknowledge that they think a certain way about you and not care, but that only works for so long, because you can only not care for so long. Like, if it was a thing where people really didn't care, then this conversation wouldn't even happen. If people were really as carefree as they said, then they wouldn't be complaining about when people discriminate against them and when people treat them a different way, because if you're truly carefree, then you have no cares, you are free of cares. So then if someone treats you badly based on the way you look, or they say, oh, you're a thought, look what you're wearing, if you're truly carefree, then you should be free of care. So that shouldn't even matter. But because this is a conversation, it shows that people still have a heart. They still have a little piece of God in them, intuition, something inside of them which is like, that hurt a little bit. If you're truly a thought, then you will be so far gone, so far out of it that people's opinions wouldn't matter. But because they do matter, that's why we're having this conversation. So people need to be more genuine with themselves and really peep the game for real. Jeez! Now, the one point that I wanted to raise is Brianna. Brianna did make some sense in some point. Brianna did make some sense in a way, because she said that men and women don't look skin deep, and I totally agree with her. There are men who think wearing red lipstick makes you a hoe. I've heard this real life incarnation. People say that if you wear red lipstick, you're a hoe. Let's talk about that, bro. How is the color of my lips going to determine what goes on down there? Come on, let's think a bit more deep. Don't be so simplistic in your thinking. Don't be so disingenuous, my brother. God gave you a brain to think. So think, and you do need to look beyond, because if you're trying to tell me now that, okay, it's difficult, because yes, you have to be aware of how you're perceived. But if you know you've done all your best to come across as a certain way, come across in a good light according to you, and people still want to perceive you anyhow, that's when you say, oh, I throw in a towel, I don't care. Not that you've gone out of your way to look the most, abhorrible or the most demonic or the most something, and then when people treat you in the way that you've represented yourself, then you want to cry. No, because you intentionally went out knowing that this is the reaction that could have occurred. So when you go out of your house every day, you have to accept the fact that there could be a certain reaction, and that reaction, you're just gonna have to accept it. I am not talking about sexual abuse. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. Please remove that from your mind. That's a whole different topic. It's difficult because people don't want to take responsibility for their actions. Some people do stupid things and they find themselves in stupid situations, but then they don't want to, and they want to blame the perpetrator, but they don't want to take account for what they did to contribute to that dangerous situation. I'm just throwing it out there. Please remove your mind from sexual assault and rape and all of that stuff, because honestly, that's a whole different topic. But when I'm talking about physical appearance, you have to be responsible for some of the reaction that happens when you leave the house. Tay Mitch was saying that if you're perceived as a hoe, or if you come across or dress as a hoe, or you hang around with hoes, they're going to be perceived that you're a hoe, and birds of the same feather flock together. That's fair enough, but what I have to say to you, Tay Mitch, so when you're hanging around with people that look like gangbangers and the police mistake you for a gangbanger and they shoot you and kill you, is that okay then? Because you are perceived to be a gangbanger. It's not okay. So whereas yes, you have to take responsibility for the way you're perceived and the way you represent yourself, you also have to be willing to search deeper than what someone presents to see if they are actually what they present, because most of the time it's a front. People don't want to talk about why people are thots or hoes. These people, most of them, are hurt. They've been hurt in the past, or they've been broken by something, or something's missing from them, and then they revert to this kind of extra lifestyle. You might think they're confident, you might think that they love themselves and it's all of this carefree spiritedness, but really deep down inside they're hurting and they're looking for a way to fulfill that hurt. So people don't really want to delve deep into the reasons why people are thoughts. They just want to label them as thoughts, People don't look into histories of sexual abuse, or whether they were in the system of care, foster care or adoption, or whether they didn't have a good upbringing. No one wants to think about those reasons and those factors that contribute to some people growing up a certain way and then exhibiting certain behaviors. But you just want to sit down, cool, all chill, and then call a girl a thought. That's pretty much it. I just feel like it was a conversation of yes or no, like do you agree or do you not agree. I mean, that's it really. I'm not going to ramble on and waste time. So that was my 2 cents on the whole Bkchat Houston season 2 episode 1. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me. Just be respectful. I don't mind. I honestly don't mind if people have different opinions, as long as you're respectful. I've had trolls on my page since I started, and at one point it gave me anxiety, but I just learned to get over it, and I learned to work through it by God's grace. So be respectful, but you definitely can disagree with me in the comment section. Granted, this is not like some dissertation where I can really lay out all my evidence and stuff, so I might have said some things that are a bit off when I edit, and then I see something, I'll just correct myself in the comments. So definitely watch the description bar or the comment section if I correct myself before you comment as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to see you in my next one. I also wanted to say thank you to all my new subscribers. I appreciate y'all. New content is coming, good content is coming, consistent content is coming by God's grace. Yeah, just be patient. Definitely just turn on your notifications so that when I do post, you'll be the first ones to know and you can jump on that ish. Definitely be sure to check out my previous video on Sabrina Claudio's racist ass and her comments about dark-skinned women or just black women, and then also some black Latinas, I think it was Afro-Latinas. Yeah, it's crazy, y'all. I was liking her music until she did this. I cannot do this anymore. She's cancelled. I'm sorry, Kodak Black is cancelled, she's cancelled. I cannot be supporting colorist and racist artists in 2018. It's not my life. Why? Anyways, thank you for watching and I'll see you in my next one. Love yourself and be free. Mwah.